On the weekend of April 10, 2005, President Bush met with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon on Mr. Bush's ranch in Crawford, Texas. Their agenda was to discuss Sharon's approval of new settlements within Palestine and act in direct violation of the peace agreement. The Crawford Peace House organized a group of speakers in a march through the town in protest of this threat to the peace process.
There's really 3 dates that can frame your interaction when you talk to people in the United States to try and help them see what is so unjust about the situation in Palestine. 3 easy dates you can offer to people to make it clear to them why U.S. policy in support of Israel is unjust, illegal, and immoral. The first date is the most obvious, which is 1948. Not just because that was the year that Israel was established, that was the year that the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people made possible the state of Israel. And we have to always remind people that 1948 was not just the founding of a country, it was a process of ethnic cleansing of 750,000 Palestinians driven out of their homes. Even Israeli historians now have abandoned the lie that those people left voluntarily or left at the behest of Arab leaders. We all know now, even if we live in Israel and read Israeli historians, that that was an act of ethnic cleansing, and that is unjust, and that is the founding act of the State of Israel. So we have to educate people about the reality of 1948. And then we have to talk about 1967. Again, a very obvious date to talk about, because at the end of the 1967 war, the occupation of the Gaza and the West Bank begins. And we have to always remind people that that is an illegal occupation, that under international law and specific UN resolutions, that occupation is unlawful. And if the United States claims to be, as we always say, a nation of laws, not men, to use the old, very gendered formulation, that means that we have to obey the law as well, and that our support cannot go to another nation that is so flagrantly in violation of international law. So we have to remind people about what happened in 1967. That act of ethnic cleansing that formed the State of Israel in 1948 was then turned into an occupation of the remaining area of Palestine, and that is unlawful. And always remind people that neither of those things could continue if not for U.S. support. And here I think we should go to a third date and talk about September 11th, 2001. Now, one of the ways that people have used September 11, 2001 is to argue to the U.S. public that, in fact, one has to get tough on terror. That's the lesson that George Bush, that's a lesson that the Democratic Party, that's a lesson that most of mainstream America took away from September 11, 2001, that the only way you can make yourself safe is to get tough on terror. And you heard people talking about the Israeli model. The United States has got to get tough, like Israel got tough. But of course, that interpretation misses the obvious reality that, in fact, the Israeli approach to relationships with Palestinians has not made Israel safe. It has not made the Israeli people safe. It has, in fact, continued to expose the Israeli people to violence, because that kind of situation cannot ever be the basis for a peaceful and just settlement. So, in fact, the lesson from 2001 is not that one has to get tough on terrorism. The lesson of 2001, September 11th, is that the only way you can be truly safe in this world is to bring forward principles and policies that will make a peaceful and just solution possible. That's the real lesson of September 11th, not that more bombs, more violence.
People had come from all over Texas for the event.
Do we have folks here from Dallas, Fort Worth? Please cheer. Do we have folks here from Austin? Austin, Texas. All right. How about San Antonio? San Antonio, right there. How about Waco, Texas? Woo! Waco. All right. Thank you very much. Our numbers are small, but I've heard that size really doesn't matter. I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
I was surprised that the crowd consisted of an older generation, only speckled with a handful of college-age people. But they came equipped. For the very elderly, there was even a peace train to carry them through the march. There were also several sections of Women in Black, an organization started by women in Israel against Israel's occupation of Gaza. Members of the Socialist Party were also in attendance, as well as the Wheels of Justice bus. Carrying an 800-foot banner listing the numerous Israeli violations of UN regulations we marched through the tiny town. The chants began to change and evolve as we went. Portions were taken from other chants until everyone seemed to agree on the final incarnation: free, free Palestine, occupation is a crime. The local media was on hand, and whenever we began to approach a camera, word would spread, and suddenly the volume of the chant would increase to a fever pitch. Locals came out and sat on their porches, and as one speaker had suggested, the banner did indeed span the entire length of downtown Crawford.
They're building a wall between friends, a wall that justifies any means for their ends, a wall between Semites, rich and poor, brothers and sisters from not so long before. Many feet thick and 20 feet high, no one can look through it and into the eye of a person you might know, to whom you might confide. Now just a stranger on the other side. They're building a wall between water and land, so we can eat fruit and they can eat sand. A wall to make sure that our orchards will grow and our kids can get fat and not need to know of the cities in ruins and the children in fear, as your fathers and brothers in tanks might be near. A wall to keep quiet that which you fear most, so you don't have to listen to your grandfather's ghost. They're building a wall between future and past, a wall to keep distant the chambers of gas from the bulldozers, gunships, and the tears of a child. Dignity, love, and all honor defiled, to remove reality from your facts on the ground. A wall to keep distant the terrible sound of the houses that crumble and the children that die. A wall to keep separate the truth from the lie.